Hello and welcome to the Oddcast, the podcast that delves into the most perplexing mysteries of our world. Today, we're casting our gaze back to a warm September night in 1961, to a remote stretch of road in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, and to an event that would forever etch itself into the annals of UFO lore, the alleged abduction of Betty and Barney Hill. This isn't just another fleeting anecdote, it's a foundational case in ufology, meticulously documented and subject to years of intense scrutiny. Betty and Barney Hill were an interracial couple living in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Barney, a postal worker, and Betty, a social worker, were by all accounts a respectable and grounded pair. They were on their way back from a vacation in Niagara Falls, driving south on US Route 3, a quiet, two-lane highway winding through dense woodland. As they drove near Lancaster, New Hampshire, around 10:30 p.m. on September 19th, Betty, who was in the passenger seat, noticed a bright light in the sky. At first they thought it was an ordinary aircraft, perhaps a commercial airliner or even a military plane given the proximity of Pease Air Force Base. However, the light began to move erratically, unlike anything they had ever seen. It descended and ascended, changing course with impossible speed. Barney, intrigued but still skeptical, stopped the car to get a better look. He grabbed his binoculars. What he saw through the lenses chilled him to the bone. The object was not a conventional aircraft. It was a large, disc-shaped craft with flashing red and blue lights, and what appeared to be a row of windows along its side. And within those windows, Barney claimed he saw figures looking back at him. He described them as humanoid, but distinctly non-human, with large eyes and what seemed to be dark uniforms. Panic began to set in. Barney, deeply unnerved, rushed back to the car. As he sped away, he told Betty to look back. She saw the object, now directly above their car, blocking out the stars. Then, according to their initial conscious recollections, they heard a series of beeps and felt a strange tingling sensation throughout their bodies. The next thing they knew, they were 35 miles south, in Ashland, with 2 hours of missing time and only a hazy, fragmented memory of what had transpired. This missing time was the first truly disturbing element. They couldn't account for those 2 hours. Their watches had stopped, and there were scuff marks on Barney's shoes that he couldn't explain. Over the next few days, both Betty and Barney experienced strange symptoms, recurring nightmares, anxiety, and physical ailments. Betty's nightmares were particularly vivid and disturbing. She dreamt of being taken aboard a craft, subjected to a physical examination by non-human entities. Initially, they were reluctant to share their story, fearing ridicule. But the persistent physical and psychological distress, particularly Betty's recurring nightmares, became too much to bear. Betty, a meticulous individual, began to document everything she could remember, even drawing sketches of the craft and the beings she saw in her dreams. Their story first came to public attention when Betty, encouraged by her sister, spoke about their experience to a local women's group in October 1961. This led to contact with the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, or NICAP, a prominent civilian UFO research group. NICAP investigator Walter Webb conducted an extensive interview with the Hills in the spring of 1962, providing one of the earliest detailed accounts of their conscious recollections. However, the full, startling details of their alleged abduction would not emerge until later, under hypnosis. The stress of their experience took a severe toll on Barney's health, exacerbated by his pre-existing medical conditions and his struggle to come to terms with what he believed had happened. In 1964, a concerned family friend suggested they seek help from Dr. Benjamin Simon, a prominent Boston psychiatrist and neurologist. Dr. Simon, initially skeptical of UFOs, agreed to hypnotize the couple separately, without either knowing what the other was revealing, in an attempt to alleviate their anxieties and uncover any suppressed memories. Under hypnosis, a far more detailed and chilling narrative unfolded. Both Betty and Barney independently described being taken aboard the craft. Their accounts, while not identical in every minor detail, showed remarkable consistency on the core elements. They both recalled being led by small, grey-skinned beings with large heads and enormous wraparound eyes. These beings, often referred to as greys in ufology, would become an archetypal image of extraterrestrial visitors. During the hypnotic sessions, they described being subjected to a physical examination. Betty recalled a long needle being inserted into her navel, a memory that would later be associated with the collection of an egg sample. Barney described a cup-like device being placed over his genitals and samples being taken from his skin and hair. They both recalled being examined by beings who spoke in a language they didn't understand, but whose intentions seemed to be conveyed telepathically or through images projected into their minds. One of the most compelling aspects of their hypnotic testimony was Betty's recall of a star map. While aboard the craft, one of the beings showed her a map of stars. Under hypnosis, Betty was able to reproduce this map, depicting a cluster of stars connected by lines, indicating trade routes or frequently visited destinations. Years later, an amateur astronomer named Marjorie Fish, after hearing about the map, spent years analyzing star charts and concluded that Betty's map remarkably matched the star system Zeta Reticuli, located about 39 light-years from Earth. While this correlation remains a subject of intense debate and has been challenged by some astronomers, it adds another layer of intrigue to the Hill case. After the hypnotic sessions, both Betty and Barney reported feeling significantly better, the nightmares and anxiety subsiding. However, their lives were irrevocably changed. Their story became public in 1965 after an article in the Boston Traveler newspaper by John G. Fuller, which subsequently led to his best-selling book, The Interrupted Journey. This book propelled the Hill case into national and international prominence, making them accidental celebrities in the burgeoning field of ufology. The impact of the Betty and Barney Hill case is undeniable. It popularized the concept of alien abduction, particularly the image of the Greys and the detailed medical examination. It highlighted the phenomenon of missing time and the use of hypnosis as a tool to recover repressed memories in alleged abduction cases. Skeptics, of course, have offered alternative explanations. Some suggest that the Hills experienced a misidentification of a conventional aircraft or even the planet Jupiter. Others propose that their memories were influenced by their anxieties, popular science fiction, or even by the hypnotic process itself, known as confabulation. It's also been suggested that Betty's nightmares, which predated Barney's more detailed recollections under hypnosis, may have influenced his own memories. The fact that Barney suffered from ulcers and high blood pressure and was under considerable stress due to the racial tensions of the time has also been considered as a contributing factor to his psychological state. Despite the skepticism, the Hills maintained the veracity of their experience until their deaths, Barney in 1969 and Betty in 2004. Betty, in particular, remained a vocal advocate for UFO research for decades, even after Barney's passing. She participated in numerous interviews, never wavering from her account. The Betty and Barney Hill abduction remains one of the most thoroughly investigated and debated cases in UFO history. It's a story that continues to fascinate and challenge our understanding of reality. Was it a genuine extraterrestrial encounter, a vivid psychological phenomenon, or a complex interplay of both? We may never have definitive answers. But what is clear is that the experience of Betty and Barney Hill profoundly impacted their lives and indelibly shaped the discourse surrounding UFOs and the possibility of life beyond Earth. Thank you for joining me on the Oddcast. Until next time, keep looking up, keep questioning, and stay curious.